Thursday, September 19th. It seems like it's been a while since
It does feel that.
in this room, but we will begin with roll call. Annie.
Right, it looks like online we have Christina DeWar, Danica Nelson, Irene Wara, Jackson Lee, Kyla Leonards, and MCAT. In 206, we have Commissioner Strohmeyer and Slotnick, Allison France, Andrew Chorney, Maddie Scott, Carrie Powers, Jacob Allington, myself, Annie Cathy, Nancy Rattel, Melissa Richardson, Britton Smith, Mr. Moore, first name, Mr. Moore is Pat Moore, Steve Major. That's it.
Excellent. Thank you, Annie. Probably one of the biggest pieces of news this morning is that our very own Commissioner Juanita Vero was elected yesterday to be second vice president of the Montana Association of Counties.
That's a bigger deal than second vice president.
Oh.
Well, she
2 years.
Yeah, she will eventually, in 2 years from now, be president. The way the progression works is she will, you are automatically in the pipeline once you become second VP. She'll be first VP next year, and the following year she will be president of the Montana Association of Counties, which is like a generational opportunity for Missoula County and the state of Montana.
Yeah, we
Griffin, yes.
As in how
I was just about to ask, when's the last time? So
it was in the early 80s.
really,
It was
Anne Marie
Dussault.
Yes.
So definitely generational for sure. And I think also says something about where Mako is right now. And for a long time, Missoula was.
Not welcome to. Sorry.
We're an urban county, and 50 other counties are rural. And our county typically votes Democratic, and all the other counties vote Republican. So we're hadn't really been in the fold. Don't have much of a voice. And things have turned around. I really have to say thanks in part to our governor and really bad property tax policy.
Yes.
Montana Association of Counties is more united than ever before, as we saw Dave and Commissioner McGinley from Beaverhead on the shared the banner on a lawsuit together.
Yes, we did.
And myself and Commissioner Joe Briggs from Cascade testified in front of the interim committee on taxation, shoulder to shoulder and in complete agreement. You could find a man with no more Republican bona fides than Joe Briggs, and we are in complete agreement on this. The governor has helped unified Mako, and evidence of this is our very own Juanita Vero, slated to be president during a legislative session in 2027.
I was there.
I know, and who told you to go? Remember, you got a hot tip? Me. I wasn't convinced that she was going to win by any stretch. I just thought it was going to be an interesting election and worthy, newsworthy. But that she won was just amazing.
Yeah. It's a big deal.
Yeah.
Any other public comment on items not on the agenda? Seeing none, we will move on. We have a consent agenda that is packed here with 22 items. Is there anything, Josh, you'd like to pull off of here for further discussion?
I just want to note, and I think I've got it right here, that a whole bunch of these is at 1 through 19. Well, we got something from the alcohol tax fund. So there's a couple of these from alcohol tax fund, but a whole bunch are for the CAF.
The Community Assistance Fund.
Yes, where I thought it's on Nancy. Oh, there he is. So, and I would just like to take a moment again to thank Nancy for running such a great process as you do every year. The volunteers and folks who work at the county who are part of it, I feel like we are so well informed and we had great discussions. We use some real quantitative metrics as well as qualitative understanding because we have relationships with these folks and have seen their work in the community. I think you did a great job, and we did a great job of figuring out how to take what is really not that large a sum of money in relation to the amount of asks. It was about 2 to 1.
It was a record amount, 1.7 asks.
For 800 some odd thousand.
Almost 900.
Almost 900. So
And
a little.
number of applications as well.
So a little less than 2 to 1, but that means a lot of no being said and doing our best to spread the money we have around among these worthy organizations. So this has been highly vetted. This is the last step.
And Melissa did
On the alcohol tax.
alcohol
Yeah.
tax.
Do you want to say anything about that?
And there's also the substance abuse prevention mill levy contracts and then the temporary safe outdoor space contract with the ARPA funds. So that's really, they're excited to be able to get under contract.
Allison, I believe, is going to do a press release once, we'll have a few more meetings with more items. And once that's all done, Allison will do a complete press release on all the CAF and alcohol and for media. Once we got them all.
Yeah, because we'll have several more coming to admin.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Temporary safe outdoor space, that's a different item though, right? That's all.
Yeah, that's not CAF.
Plan.
Yep, correct. That's not CAF.
And that is the last of the county's ARPA dollars.
We'll have all our ARPA dollars contracted by December 31st.
Okay.
Not spent, but contracted.
Contract.
If I may interject, CAF does support one FTE of the peer support specialist.
Oh,
So,
good.
yeah,
That's good. That's
again, just trying to help out where we can.
Peer support specialist for temporary safe outdoor space. Gotcha. Just a larger question, once that money's going through at the end of fiscal year 2026, is there a plan in place by the county?
say we're working on it. Yes. We're very well aware and thankfully there's lots of partners involved. We will dream something up. It's such a successful project. It needs to continue.
And, certainly you guys fund part of it, but some of it's from United Way.
Yeah. And some from Hope Rescue Mission too. So multiple partners.
Gotcha.
Failure is not an option with it.
Her well said.
What is that?
Failure is not an option. It's been a great success story. We don't have a clear plan for how beyond that fiscal cliff we will keep it operational, but we are working on it, as Josh said. Okay, anything else on the consent agenda? All 22 items.
I move we pass this consent agenda.
I'll second that. Further discussion or public comment by anyone on the consent agenda? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Okay, we have 4 action items today, beginning with one brought to us by Jackson Lee. Thank you.
Good morning, commissioners. For your consideration today is a joint city-county grant application to the United States Forest Service Landowner Support Program. So by pursuing this grant opportunity, the Missoula County and the city of Missoula aim to improve climate mitigation and forest resilience through targeted forest management activities on 3 properties, which are Marshall Mountain Park, Marshall Grade, and Mount Deanstone Preserve. The focus of the county portion is Marshall Mountain Park, which is a priority area for focus attention identified in the Montana Forest Action Plan. And the funding request at Marshall would address the high and moderate priority management areas that are outlined within the Marshall Mountain Community Forest Interim Plan. And that plan was developed this summer as part of the United States Forest Service Community Forest Program grant that supported the acquisition of Marshall Mountain. These high and moderate priority management areas constitute nearly 70% of the total acreage of Marshall Mountain Park. And what this would do at Marshall Mountain specifically is the funding and implementation of this project would increase forest health and vigor, improve terrestrial and aquatic habitat, reduce the risk of wildlife and forest insects and disease, while also improving the recreation experience, especially with regard to ski run management and maintenance of winter recreation activities. So on this grant, we are excited to collaborate with the City of Missoula's Conservation Lands Program on what we see as an integrated cross-jurisdictional project that's focused on restoration and maintenance activities. And those benefits should be seen on a landscape scale as well, amplifying ecosystem services within our community. Applications are due end of September. If awarded, the project would be implemented over a 5-year timeline, and it's a 80-20 cost share program, so 80% federal funding and 20% local match. And it looks like our grant request will range from $700,000 to $800,000.
Great. Thanks, Jackson.
Fantastic.
You bet.
Questions?
No, we've heard about this before and I'm really excited. We're planning on making good on our commitment to take care of the woods up there at Marshall. Thanks for making this happen, Jackson. I would
Absolutely, thank
we
you.
approve the submission of a grant application to the U.S. Forest Service.
We'll second that. Any further discussion or public comment on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Jackson. Andrew, Municipal Financial Advisor.
Yes. We have a municipal financial advisor by the name of Fieldman Rolap. They've been with us for a number of years. And just to give you background on what a municipal finance advisor does, in the wake of the subprime mortgage crisis in 2008, 2009, Congress enacted the Dodd-Frank Wall Street Reform Act, known as the Dodd-Frank Act. The act provided sweeping reforms for financial institutions, financial advisors, and financial markets. It imposes a fiduciary duty on municipal advisors and requires that they advise the municipal entity on the issuance of municipal securities or municipal financial products in a fiduciary manner to its municipal entity clients. So they're a fiduciary to us. It specifically says in the Dodd-Frank Act, we cannot listen to other financial advisors, brokers, dealers, investment advisors providing traditional advice, attorneys, or engineers. So the only advice we can get is from our municipal financial advisor, and they work on a flat fee basis. So there's no incentive for them to sell more, so sell less. The contract we have is an update from this was prior to COVID. They've updated some of their fees. Their individual billing rates went up approximately 10%, but that billing rate is only in play if we do something outside the traditional debt issuance, the flat fee issuance. We ask them to do additional research, that sort of thing. So it went up from $25,000 to $37,000 for an issuance under $50 million. And they had to ask for 46.5, but I negotiated it back down to 37.
So does any unit of government that issues debt
Must
need
have
to?
municipal financial.
This is ours.
This is ours. We've done since the regional park and the library. They knocked it out of the park, both those issuances. We were managing 3 different underwriters at the time. They advised on underwriter takedowns, underwriter fees. They've saved us hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Amazing. Yeah, great. I move we continue this relationship.
Okay, I will second that. Further discussion or public comment on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Maddie, to you. Thanks, Andrew. Maddie, Fair Event Committee.
Yes, this is requesting the board to appoint members to the Fair Event Committee. We have 2 positions. One is an active member, term starting October 1st, 2024 through September 30th. And then 1 alternate member, October 1st through September 30th, 2027. Harley Tucker is the current alternate member, and he submitted a letter of interest seeking. Sorry, I've had a lot of coffee today.
It's going to be all right. Keep it down.
They gave me bigger than I asked.
Do we need to take that from you, Maddie?
So he submitted a letter of interest being appointed to active member. You met with 1 applicant, Debbie Polson, and I know the Billy.
Yep.
Billy, she expressed great pleasure in meeting Debbie, and with her background in event planning.
Remember her well.
She was very for Debbie being appointed to the active seat if you guys were along with it, but yeah. So
Was Billy interested in having Debbie move into the alternate seat and having Harley move to the?
she was more interested in them moving Debbie to the active member with how much background she has.
And Harley would.
And Harley's been in there for a few months. But she said Harley's been a good add-on too, so she's.
So I just can make sure I understand. So Harley would remain the
As
alternate.
alternate.
Okay, and Debbie would take over as that.
Yes, that's what she
even though-
suggested, but it is up to you guys. He's gotten.
Slightly
he's gotten the
unorthodox.
underneath his belt now,
Yeah.
and she said he's been a good addition. So either one, but she just.
And he's expressed an interest to move up
Yes.
to the regular.
Yes.
Come on in.
You're good. You're totally good. I would be more inclined to move Harley up, had Debbie be the alternate, because the reality on these boards, everyone who's there, alternate or not, plays a role in conversation, and the decisions are almost never contentious, but they are almost always by consensus. They work together, they figure it out, make a plan. And as an alternate, we would still be making use of Debbie's great skills and
Exactly.
background.
And that's what I said, and she was happy with either decision, but
Great. Okay.
Yeah.
And we want to honor that Harley's been
Yeah.
here and moving up, so. Okay, so I'd move, we have Harley be a regular member and Debbie be the alternate.
I'll second that. Further discussion or public comment on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Okay, thank you. Yeah, go fill that baby up.
You'd be great.
I don't drink like that much.
Okay,
Afternoon copy is all.
I know,
Yeah.
our fourth and final action item today pertains to adoption of the Lolo Community Council bylaws, and we'll begin with Kyla.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm here to present the Lolo Community Council bylaws. Last council meeting in September, they presented one addition to the amendments that they want to put before you. So I will just read through the few. They would like to add the Pledge of Allegiance in their order of business after roll call. They have added in, let's see, Article 5 under Section 4, Item A. After the resignation is submitted, they wanted to add that the resignation will also be submitted to the council chair, and the council chair will inform the rest of the council of that resignation at the next meeting. So that's the second amendment. And the most recent amendment that they have put forth is also under Section 4, but is under Section C. It's in regards to the vacancies that are appointed by the commissioner's office or partial term vacancies. They would like to add the verbiage that the Missoula County Elections Office and the Missoula Board of County Commissioners receive those applications and validate them. I will pause there if you have any questions on those three amendments that they put forth.
First two, I don't have any issue with. The third one, what would the elections office be doing? Why would they be involved?
Yes, this would be against staff recommendation. This particular section, Section C, vacancies, is talking about the vacancies that the commissioners fill, not that the elections office see. So this language, the Missoula County Elections Office, was actually removed from the 2023 bylaw template for that reason, to create clarity. We can understand why they would want that in there. However, the commissioner appointed seats and the elected seats are very separate and silo processes. And so that's why that language was removed from the 2023 template. So we would suggest that that would not be accepted as an amendment due to that clarity that the elections office does not receive applications for interim vacancies.
So I just ask these guys, because here from Lolo, what's
Josh,
sorry.
Could we hold that for just for a second? We'll hear from them momentarily. Kyla, do you want to finish? Are there any other recommended changes?
Those were the three amendments that were put forth for this, that the council has approved and signed for you.
Okay. Thank you, Kyla. Okay, back to you, Josh.
Thanks. I want to ask you guys a question, because I imagine this came from y'all.
And we have the chair on here too. So
Okay, one more time. Who should I ask this question of?
why don't you begin with Danica.
So Danica, what is the problem that y'all are attempting to solve with this?
Well, first I would just like to say, so at the September meeting, I unfortunately was unable to attend, but it sounded like the majority of the discussion centered around transparency and transparency of these appointees to the vacancies. One thing I did want to clarify real quickly, I just wanted to give props to Kyla because she actually did inform the council of our two most recent appointees, on May 10th, we received an email from her about Pat Moore's application, as well as a survey so that we could provide feedback. And on May 14th, we received an email from her about Angela's application, as well as a survey so we could provide feedback on those two applicants. And while they did come in after our agenda was published, I did announce those at our public meeting. So the community did have an opportunity to voice their opinion on both of those applicants at our May meeting. So I wanted to make that clarification because I know at the last meeting, it sounded like there was some confusion as to whether or not the commissioners had conveyed that information. We did actually receive that information. I appreciate that. I will say, as far as this addition for having the Missoula County Elections Office also vet the applicants, it sounded like there was concern possibly that we may get applicants who are not qualified. And so my understanding is that was why that addition was wanted to be added. But I will now turn it over to Steve because he was one of the ones that had proposed this.
So just, somebody could answer my question.
Before you go, Josh, Kyla had something to respond to there.
Sure. I just wanted to clarify that the commissioner's office does work closely with the elections office, and not to speak on Maddie's behalf, but being in the position prior, we do verify that the voters are qualified and meet within those boundaries of the council. So they do verify that with the elections office, but the elections office does not receive these applications.
Thank you, Kyla. Okay, finally back.
Try again.
Okay.
I want me to vote right. Somebody's going to have to answer this. What is the problem you are attempting to solve here?
I wrote the bill, but I wasn't at the last meeting where it got signed, a lot of signatures, so I'll have, actually Pat knows more about it than I do. I'm not going to speak.
Well, what we're trying to do, is just get more common knowledge out there of who's going to be appointed. Because in the past, we weren't notified. We don't know. They represent us as a public. So we just wanted to know who it is. We assume they're being vetted. Part of the reason for them to go to the elections office is so that we know they are vetted. And the previous, bylaws, as she stated, they did cover that base so that they were supposed to register there. Prior to an earlier appointment, I went to the voting office because we didn't even know who was going to be appointed. And I asked them who they were because that meeting was that night and we kind of wanted to know. They hadn't been notified at all.
They wouldn't be notified. They would not be notified.
Elections.
Two separate processes.
Yes, they're not part of it.
So per the bylaws, they were supposed to go and register there and thereby be vetted.
I don't think that's accurate.
That's the way the bylaws read. I have a copy with me if you'd like me to read it.
Yeah, that is not accurate, Pat.
It might be in the bylaws, but we don't have any, we appoint people to 30 some odd boards and nobody goes through elections.
So how does, I guess the bottom line is, how do we know as a community who is going to be? And I know you guys are doing a better, you're trying to let the board know who is going to be, and it sounds like it's been happening too. And I have a letter here that, says you guys are going to do that. It looks like it's happening, but how would the public ever know if it doesn't happen until the meeting that we're notified and then they're appointed, they're in our meeting? You see what I'm getting at?
Yeah, well, a couple things here. One, if this has been working, what Danny described, we should just do that. That's within our purview. We could do as was recently done. The other piece of this is when we interview folks for these boards, those are public meetings. You can come and sit in, you can sit in on Zoom, you can come sit at the
How would
table.
we know that you're interviewing of somebody that's going to?
Because with the interview process, I do include the staff liaison, the chair. I email the whole board of when that interview.
So the board is included in the correspondence?
Yes.
Which,
So they know when we're interviewing somebody, they could come and sit in if they
So
want.
on our behalf as the public, they could come and.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So my biggest question is, are these people that you guys, do you vet them in some way? We have a lot of things.
Tyler, could you describe the vetting?
Maddie.
Oh, Maddie's here. I'm sorry.
Maddie.
She gets said it once, I should repeat it. Maddie can describe.
So I look over the applications. I do reach out to elections to make sure you're voting members and along those lines, and then set up the interviews. Kyla helps and sends out the email of who the applicant is and the survey on it. and then we move forward from there.
Pat, what are you thinking in terms of vetting? Because you've been through the process and we do as Maddie suggested, but then as we are doing the interviews, we are making our decision based on written applications, any feedback we get from the public, and also the interview itself.
Sure. You bet.
So that is kind of that is our vetting process.
You know, I guess, well, you already proven that they're a citizen of our community, of the community that they're representing. I assume that's already been done.
Yeah, verify their address and everything.
So you guys are doing that. See, our question is if they're not even going to the voting center as it said they were supposed to register there, then who's looking? That's our big question.
I guess the
And I think the answer.
I mean, the kicker is, the system is intended to, and I mentioned this at the community council meeting that I attended, we do not like to be put in the position of needing to make the decision as far as community council members because the legislature intended that these be elected positions. So that's the best case scenario when folks, for whatever reason, either have not filed or resign, and we need to fill the position. That's where we come into play.
If you guys really want to make this work, encourage people to run for office when those are vacant, when those offices are open. That's how to do it. Get them to run for office.
And that's how I got actually in the mix, is I
I
was.
mean, this appointment is plan B. If we didn't do it, there'd be nobody there.
We just want to know who it is ahead of time. That's all.
Well, we will keep doing, as we have been doing, as Danica described, and Maddie's doing the vetting. So you can rest assured there's nobody running who isn't from that area. Danica will have their names. Maddie's in correspondence with the board. You guys are welcome to come to those meetings, sit in on them. You can be part of the process. But ideally, this happens in an election.
Question in the back there.
So I need to have clarification. It was in our bylaws previously, and it was removed. You just said that. It was there, we know it was there, and it was removed. So I need clarification as to why you removed it again?
Can you read what it is that you're referencing that was removed? This is part of our effort to bring all of our bylaws across the county into uniformity.
Well, I don't understand that either because we are all different, separate.
Well, I think our contention is that you are not as different as you would think when it comes to how you run meetings.
The rules of the road should be the same. Where you drive is up to you. You can decide to do projects you want on Lolo that are completely different than Sealy.
Kyla, jump in.
Sure. So I think what you're referring to is the removal of the words Missoula County Elections Office under that item C where applications are being sent to the Elections Office and the Missoula County Commissioner's Office. We removed that from this version of the bylaw template, the 2023 version, due to the conversations we had with the Elections Office and with all the communities to try to create more clarity that the appointments, the ones that are interim appointments or partial term appointments that the commissioners make, those applications are not being sent or viewed in any way by the Elections Office. It is up to the Commission's Office to verify the qualified elector with the Elections Office, but the Elections Office does not receive any of those applications for those interim vacancies. So they're very separate processes when someone has to resign and have commissioners need to fill a partial term. So that is why it was removed, is to create a little bit more clarity in that aspect.
Probably should not have been in the bylaws originally.
So I'm looking at the current template and Article 5, Section 2, it spells out, now these are for elected officials, right? It spells out that they will be registered at the elections office.
For elected officials.
Because they're elected, right?
Yeah, these folks we're talking about aren't elected.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, they have a whole form that gets filled out and everything.
So they will, and of course, we can go on the website and look.
And then in your letter, like when I sent your letter, it does say that you will need to file with elections for your next term.
And I guess that's part of it is I can go and look on the website to see who is registered for elected. But there's no place for me to go and look to see who's going to be appointed or who's even applied. That's, I guess, the point. We can't, as a public, go look to see everything else we can.
Well,
That is the point.
what we can do is, as we did with Danica, just let you guys know. These are the folks who applied. These are the people who are getting interviewed. Maddie's in correspondence with you, so you know the dates and times and places of the interviews, or you can jump online and do it. So you can attend and be part of that process. That's how we'll let you know.
Through a meeting, going to a meeting.
It just has the appearance that they're being handpicked by the commissioners.
Well, they absolutely are being handpicked by the commissioners.
How else do we
I
appoint
know,
them?
but how did
You
they
just watched
know?
us appoint people to the fair board.
Yes.
I mean, what we do is interview the people who apply. We don't go out and solicit people to
That's
apply.
what I'm
We-
wondering
it is-
also.
We
This
just
is
put,
important.
I put an ad out on our page that you can apply and then you fill out your application.
I mean, you guys could go handpick people to apply.
Yeah.
Pat, you had your hand up.
Yeah.
I guess that's part of it too, is when we elect members to represent us, we have a vote. When you appoint them, we don't have a say.
So Pat, what should we do if nobody runs and there's a vacancy? And unless we fill those vacancies, you don't have a quorum and your thing's done.
True. But
What do we do?
We're talking about appointments for somebody that is retired or quit.
Right, that's exactly what we're talking about. If we don't appoint somebody,
Yeah.
you don't have a quorum. You're done. We don't, this is Plan B. This is not our first option is you guys recruit people, they run for office, they win, they take a seat, life goes on.
Yeah.
But if somebody doesn't do it, what are we left with as an option?
Well, but when somebody does do it, they, if we knew at least who they were, and I realize there's a mechanism now. And
We're telling you who they are and you're welcome to be part of the entire process.
Sure, I
Well, the
understand.
time when Marta Brown and Anders Nord were picked by the commissioners, Pat Moore and Ron Henderson had run. And that's where this kind of all first started, where I got kind of upset because these guys had run and then those other two got appointed. And it's like, wait. what?
Well, and again, I go back to our process. We are taking into account, I could care less if someone's run for office. I could care absolutely less. What we are looking at is written application materials, the interview process, the comments that we get, making our best judgment at the time as far as how an individual will fit into the community council and fill that void.
I think I can clarify a little bit what Marilyn was talking about. During that election time, there were two people that needed to be filled from, I'll say, retired positions. And there were other two positions that needed to be filled by elected positions. So the elected position, there were four, I think, that ran during that time. So two people were elected, all good. But there were two places that were appointed positions. They weren't part of the elected group.
Why did
They were appointed, you guys appointed them, and that's the way it's written. That's the way it's
we
supposed to be
appointed them
done.
because no one ran for those
Correct.
spots?
Well, yeah, but see, they were supposed to be appointed positions because they were retired people. People who retired from our board.
Before
So
their
you
terms
appointed them as
Before their terms end.
Griffin, do you need some clarification?
Yeah,
their term. Yeah.
just a clarification, if someone retires from a community council, do you guys hold a special election for that, or is it always an opposite?
And it's appointed.
And retire is a.
I say retired. Yeah, but
I mean, we're not talking, people decide they no longer want to do this
Sure.
for whatever
It's
reason.
written it's in the bylaws, it's covered, and you guys did it the way it said it's supposed to be. But, so there were four of us, that was confusion for a while in our meeting, is that, well, there were four people, why weren't they the ones that were in? That's not the way it works with the rules, and we get it. I just think there was some confusion with it on our end.
So I guess going back to just communication, I can't say in years past how this has all been conveyed to the community councils. It sounds like, at least in this most recent situation that we've been discussing here in the Danica reference, information was actually conveyed to the community council. Whether or not it ended up in some people's spam folders is a different matter, but
Danica said she got it.
and I mean, I can
All
attest,
we can do is reach out to your chair.
and I can attest that I personally and professionally get many messages, well, maybe not many, but on occasion I get messages that are valid that end up in my spam filter or junk mail. So that may or may not have happened in the case at hand here, but we do have a mechanism in place to convey to community councils those folks who have thrown their hats in the ring. The question is, I think, whether it would make sense to post any of that information on our website somewhere if it's not already. and what that would
Is
look
that
like.
cumbersome to do that?
Well,
Would like-
Maddie, do,
I would,
It's on onboard, I don't think.
Yeah, it's on onboard.
what would it take to have that
On the county website.
on the county's website? Yeah, there's a community council page.
Yeah.
you can tell me.
I'm sure we can figure it out. It's just
Yeah, we can,
concerned.
yeah.
So for a long time at the Lolo meetings, I mean, I've gone to Lolo meetings for quite a while. I mean, we operated with like 3 for a long time. There was like no, it wasn't 7 all the time. There was no big concern by the commissioners to fill that board up with appointees. Now, all of a sudden, we have 4 appointees.
Well, I'm assuming that's because no one is running in the Lolo area.
It just seems weird. It just seems odd to me.
Why does it seem odd to you?
If people don't apply, we won't appoint anybody.
I guess I don't trust.
I mean, if you consistently do not have a quorum, we will dissolve you. I mean,
And if
that's,
if there are,
no, that is the reality.
if there are open
Well,
spaces,
let's trust you.
if there are open spaces on the board, we will fill those if people apply. If nobody applies, they'll just be open.
So is there a way for us to know if somebody's applied? I mean, we'll sure stimulate if we know there's not somebody.
And that's the
Yeah.
survey that Kyla sent
That
out
we
in the
sent
past
out to
too.
Danica.
That we send out that says this person has applied and ask for your opinions on it.
So then Danica needs to forward that to the board after it's sent to her.
Right.
There she is.
Danica, do you have any comments?
So Marilyn and I neither received. So some of the appointees were sitting next to me at the next meeting.
I will say
And
in that email, I've got it pulled up right now. Every single council member was also sent that. So again, whether it ended up in their spam folders, I'm not sure, but I can see all of the other council members were included on those emails with the survey.
If it is possible, if it's not too cumbersome to put it in, you know, there, you've got that spreadsheet there that shows anybody that registers for voting members. If it could be added, then it would be off Danica's plate and the spam thing wouldn't be eating our lunch.
Pat, is the spreadsheet you're talking about on the community council's website
Yes,
or webpage?
where it shows the, you know, the ones that register to vote.
That was
Shows-
Kyla.
Okay, then we might be talking apples and oranges again here. Kyla?
There's a spreadsheet that the elections office uses that you can look up elected. That is different from what we do for interim appointments at the commissioner's office. So that is a completely different process.
It is, but-
Could we do that, something similar for our appointment process, I guess would be the question.
Maybe you not using that same spreadsheet because that's on
Right.
elections.
Something similar is what I'm saying.
I think we could, I don't think we're gonna be able to figure out what that is in this moment because it's technology and I'd say it's not my forte at all. But these folks who work in comms and between Maddie and Kyla, I have complete faith that they put their heads together. They'll come up with some way to make this
It would be a
in.
neat handy tool.
And so you're saying you don't want us to send it to Danica. You want us to post it
Danica
somewhere.
certainly needs, I mean, you know, she's the chair, so she's the head.
But we did that and it didn't work.
Well, but I mean, she could be notified.
Summit.
Apparently it should have.
Even as the public, they can look and see. Ooh, that's the benefit.
Griffin,
People involved.
thank you,
So
Pat.
just a question, how many appointees are on the Lolo board now? Because when I look at
Four.
the website, it says
Four.
they're all elected.
4.
So
They're supposed to be
yeah,
elected.
on our website, it'll just show that those are supposed to be elected seats. So that way during special districts, they will be like to renew, they need to file a special district
Mm.
for those election spots. But they do get appointed after fact, but to continue serving, they need to be elected.
So what we might do is send out a test message like we did, similar to the real message that went out and have everyone in the distribution list. And then amongst yourselves, compare notes. Did some of the community councils members get it and others did not? And that might be a red flag to take a look at in your junk mail or spam folder.
It also could be that I need to update some emails because I haven't gotten an updated list.
That could
That
be
might
another.
also be an issue.
And we're sending them to Danica. I think that's
Yes.
a good step. But
Well,
anyway,
see,
beyond
I
saying,
remember getting that, and I remember saying that I wanted Pat Moore, because I knew him. But the other 2 people, I had no clue about who they were, so I couldn't make no comment about who they were. So how do we do that?
So you want us to figure out how you can know everyone?
Yeah, kind of a little bit.
I think that's on you.
I
think
did,
that's
well, I
on
did
you.
try calling Hannah a few times and she never returned my calls.
Can't help with that either.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess that's my thing too. I could not, I do vaguely now remember getting that, and I commented, yes, I wanted Pat more because I knew him, but the other two I didn't know who they were, so I couldn't make a comment on.
Well, their application materials should be all available.
You could read
online,
them, read their resumes.
It's
Oh,
on that
how
email.
would I do
Yeah.
that? Come here, okay.
Or you can email me, either one, and I will be more than happy to. And I could give you my email too.
So we will continue trying to distribute the materials to the community council members. We will look for a technology fix to post this material more obviously on our website. Yes, Pat.
Just a question, so how much in advance would the notice be, even if it goes to Danica, before they're appointed, do you think? And typically.
Well, we interview folks and then it takes a few weeks.
We usually do the survey when I haven't set up interview times. Kyle and I work together on getting out that survey. So that way we have it started before even the interview gets to you. And Kyle has.
Kyla.
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate that we do try to communicate with the council and allow for a council meeting before we bring the appointment to you as the commissioners. So there is a chance for the council to get that notice and notification on their either agenda or during an agenda item.
Would Kyla or Maddie, would one exception be, and I don't know that this is the case with Lolo, but some of our community council members take multiple months off during the summer. And I mean, if that's the case, then it's likely that there will not be a community council meeting before we would make that appointment. Or have we typically delayed action until the community council came back into session? Kyla or Maddie?
Commissioner, it has varied a little bit. We try not to do it during the summer months if we can avoid it. So there is the opportunity for the council to get it noticed to not only the council members, but to the community.
Okay. I guess in the case I just mentioned, there's no urgency to get the person appointed if the community council is not even meeting during the summer. So
I can make sure that I keep up on spreading it out even too, to make sure that it coincides with their meetings.
That's a good idea.
Okay.
And we'll come up with some technological fix so you can, but something larger I want to say, especially to the, we don't trust you person. I'm looking in the eye and tell you this with all the honesty I can come up with. We have no agenda for Lolo. Zero interest in handpicking anybody, zero interest in an agenda. This is for you guys to figure out. And I would be thrilled if you came to us and said, we had a community council meeting and we want to do X. You fill in the blank. You want to build something, you want to fix something, you want to generate some money to do something. That'd be fantastic. We'd love to work with you. This feels a little bit like wheel spinning and not progress. So I hope you guys can go forward and I hope we can work with you to go forward.
Yeah, Pat. The wheel spinning thing, I get it. And I think it's good to have this discussion because we can get it over with, you know? Yeah, I think it's good.
And I appreciate, don't trust anybody. We have no agenda for Lolo, zero.
Just a quick final comment before you guys vote on bylaws is our main thing is to try to make it, we know this is Plan B. We also know that community councils are your creation to help you. But it also, like Dave said before, it's a lot better if it's an elected position.
Yes.
And so this is just me talking to the commissioners. When you look at replacements, you might also want to look at people that are already elected as alternates to move into a permanent position. And you also might want to look at people that have run for election because they're interested.
So we don't look, they have to apply. Those folks would have to
That
apply.
almost would be a somewhat application. You might want to contact somebody that's run, like Ron Henderson that run and got a good percentage of votes. You know, I think 7 less than me. So that close to being elected and say, hey, would you consider putting in an election so that you might be appointed.
So you think on his own, he would not?
I don't know if he would. It's
Why?
very confusing. It was very difficult for me to actually run for the community council. So I went down to their elections office
Right.
and they didn't really seem to know what was going on. And somehow I almost got put in the election for the alternate.
So you feel like that elections process needs to be made
It's kind of
clear?
messy, but just me talking to the commissioners might want to look at people that are already kind of, if you would, vetted by the community.
Well, and I guess just a little bit of food for thought there. This is where it really starts to blur the lines between us engaging in politics and our positions versus the appointment process, because there might be a reason why the community, why someone might have run and did not get elected. And so I can't think of any other elected office where we would go out and actively, I mean, we would probably get ourselves in a, we don't have an attorney here. Oh, we do have an attorney here. I think we get ourselves in a ton of hot water if we're soliciting folks who
Yeah.
run for office.
We don't handpick, we don't go, we just put an ad out, apply if you want.
Yes.
So encourage those folks to apply.
Yes, Pat.
You know, the thought of the alternate being an option for fill-in for permanent, seems like they're a shoe-in.
Yeah.
Is there any legal way to, it isn't illegal, I should say, to connect with them and say, do you want to switch to be a permanent? We can.
Well, I think we just had an example. We just did that this morning with the fair.
Because I asked them if they would like to submit a letter of interest to move to active or to just.
You asked them exactly too.
Yes, I emailed the applicant specifically,
Well, to the alternate,
the alternate, yes.
Because they're already.
in.
So.
Then, like they did today, like it's
But we
already
wouldn't-
established in that spot, so it's.
Correct. We would just not go out into the community to solicit interest from former candidates, electoral candidates.
So, okay, I have a question. So some of the people that have been appointed, it's pretty obvious they already have experience and history and life in government, okay? And so whereas, other people that run for office, that have run for office, have zero. They're like total, like Joe Blow citizen that, wants to be involved in their community. And I guess that's where some of my, a little bit of mistrust comes into is, some of the people that have been appointed. So that ad that goes out that says there's openings for, the council, where does that ad show up? Do people that are already involved in government or meetings or departments or bureaucracy, do they get that information that there's an opening? And
It's
easier for them because they're involved.
yeah, because not everybody, Joe Blow citizen, goes to the county website like, all the time and.
And that's, it's on our county website, and then you can go under boards and councils or like, there's a community tab. You could go under that community tab and it shows boards and councils, and then it's also a tab that says boards, open positions, and it gives you a list, and I have a description of each board and what position, how long a term is, if it's partial or full or anything like that. And then a description of what the board is slightly. And then you can click on that and it goes into even more and shows you everything, like shows you a list at the bottom, all the people that are on that board currently.
Kyla, did you have something to add on that?
I will just make a note that we also notify the council of the vacancies, that the applications are open for 30 days or longer, and that is the council's responsibility to also communicate that with their community and encourage their community members to apply.
And
You guys could really play a leadership role there.
before you go, Pat, I just wanted to respond by way of, the irony is not lost on us that we go through this process of reviewing people's applications, interviewing them, presumably making a choice based on credentials and best fit with the community council, yet someone could run for office and have zero experience and find themselves elected, at which point I would put it back on the electorate that folks in the community, you need to do your work too, in getting to know who is running for office. I can think of folks throughout our government system in the United States who are less than qualified for the positions that they're holding.
And I can't speak to the appointees you're talking about, but rarely in any of our boards is there competition. Typically what happens is we have one person applying for one open spot, or in this case, we were fortunate, the one you guys just witnessed on the fair event board, we had two people and we had two spots, thank goodness. We are lucky when somebody wants to do this. More often than not, these are empty spaces.
Go
I
ahead.
think reading between the lines a little bit with what Marilyn's saying, some of these people that were appointed, I don't ever remember seeing them at a meeting.
Right.
Is there any way that you guys could, during an interview, ask if they've attended?
I think
It
it's the
is one
second
of the
question.
yeah,
I think
it
it's
is
the
one of
second.
the
The first question is, why do you want to do this? And the second one is, have you been to any meetings? Have you read their minutes?
And, you know, we realized that these people, we hadn't seen them in a meeting.
Well, Angela, we have.
And yes, well, not everyone, but the last couple, I
I
don't.
mean, if another appointment happens, take advantage and come be part of the process.
Sure.
Well, and okay, that brings up what Stromeyer said, less than qualified, so I might fit into that category because I'm just a Joe Blow citizen. Concerned about
That's-
my community.
that's-
I wanna be
that's
involved.
good.
That is a qualification.
Good enough
I'm an American
qualification.
citizen, you know.
You don't need anything more than that.
I shouldn't have to have like.
Most everybody who's on these boards,
Or
No, I'll tell you
college degree.
the one deal breaker for any of these positions is if someone through the application process or interview demonstrates an inability to work together constructively with others. I mean, that's kind of the bargain basement bar. Everything else is above that, and it's a best judgment on our part. It's not a science.
and like we just appointed these folks to the fair board. One woman who had applied had lots of experience managing events. The
Yes.
fair is a massive event.
Yes.
It's really a good idea that we appoint someone to this board who has that experience.
Yeah.
And if it's in the case that the person is elected by their peers in the community, that's the community's choice. They are making, the electorate is making their best judgment based on what they know about the community.
Exactly. That's
Plan A
Plan
versus
A.
Plan
Plan A.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So I mean, maybe if you hear about people resigning, encourage them to stick it out till the end of their term and then encourage some other people to run. I think you could
That
avoid
was
this
an
whole
issue.
thing.
That's kind of what started all this too, is because there were people that resigned on the council and yet we didn't really know. They were just kind of hanging out there. We didn't know.
We tried to get
And
that
months and
in
months and
bylaws
months
as
and
well.
months and months went by and I don't know who knew. I didn't know. It wasn't a for sure.
Sometimes
thing.
I don't even get the word.
And so we didn't know what was going on. And
We don't
that
either.
made us kind of like, what the heck?
When you're dealing with human beings.
Because
and all the
ideally, they
things
should
that
submit a letter of
Yes.
resignation
Yes.
to the BCC email or my email, but sometimes they just don't and they just disappear.
Right, and that was what, I think that we did add that in the new bylaw, didn't we? I think that was
Yes.
like the first thing that we.
Yeah, the Pledge of Allegiance and the resignation notification.
Yes, because that is really what started this whole thing. 4 people resigned and a couple of them just kind of didn't, I mean, you didn't know. You didn't, they were just kind of gone, didn't come back. And
And if I'm not told either, then
That
I
was
can't
when-
advertise for it. So that seat just sits there.
Pat, do you want the last word before we need to take action here?
Well, I guess I could sum it up a little bit from my mind at least. You know, we have the fast form of communication known to man. What have we learned not to do? We don't communicate well enough anymore. Communication, that's really the answer. That's really all it's all about.
So I think we are, Kyla, could you please recap for us where we are at with the amendments, taking into account where we've already weighed in?
Sure. So there's basically 3 amendments for approval. The Pledge of Allegiance, adding to the order of business, adding the note about when a member resigns that the chair also notifies the council. And then the last one is adding that Missoula County Elections Office is receiving the application, and that's under Article 5, Number 4, Item C, that was removed from the previous bylaw version.
That comes with a recommendation to not include that.
Correct.
So we basically have two that are recommended.
Okay, so,
Pledge and the resignation.
all right, so if I request the board approve the bylaws, it's the two in the affirmative, the resignation letter and the pledge, and saying we don't want to include the alert the elections office.
Yes, that's correct.
That's what I would like to do.
Okay. Is there a second?
Well, I just rolled in. I think we'll just let you be a
I'm just gonna be a spectator.
I will second that. Further discussion or any additional public comment on the motion? Before we unravel ourselves around the axle of bylaws. All in favor? Aye. Okay.
So I really look.
Thank
forward
you.
to Hearing from you guys about a project we can work on together. We can help fundraise, we can bring staff time, we can do all kinds of things. We can help write grants. Let's do some real thing together.
And if you guys don't mind, I'd like to get your emails again, just to make sure I have updated ones.
And we could even try a test email to
Yes.
the group to see if you got it. We will also, per your very good recommendation, look at ways we can modify the webpage for the community councils to list folks who've applied.
We'll dream up a text solution.
Marilyn, may I get your last name for roll call, please?
Hatch.
Thank you very much.
Okay, is there any other business to come before us today?
Oh, we didn't have it on record, but I was going to discuss holiday schedules.
Holiday schedules. We can certainly do that.
Calendar for you all.
Thank you.
Those are your schedules, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and going into the new year. We'll need to have a chair appointment admin, so I'm thinking December 31st, Tuesday, New Year's Eve, if it's okay with you guys, would probably be our best bet for that.
Okay.
Wait, say that again.
We need to have an admin prior to the new year.
Prior to the
Okay.
first.
You appointed new chair.
Where
Gotcha.
Juanita's up this year.
Okay.
So I'm thinking December 31st, New Year's Eve for that meeting, and then we can discuss if you want to, how much time at Thanksgiving, and if we want to take that full week at Christmas.
I also just want to say you can take a look at this and.
And we can.
Right now in the moment.
Yes.
I do need to consult with my person.
Yes, me too.
No,
Yes.
no commitment required in this.
No.
Okay, we will be adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for attending today.
I'm out of your day to come.
Appreciate it.
All right. Yeah.